Good morning, everyone. This is Judith Echo. You're listening to My Love. Let's get into it. So, I got my test results back. They're not great. They weren't great last year. And they're not great this year. But it gives me a blueprint of what to work on. And I am very, very committed to working on it. My numbers to me look like someone who was distracted from taking care of their own health and looking after other people's health. And that's pretty much what I've been doing for very many years in my life right now. And I'm not looking for praise for that. You just have to find ways to be able to take care of yourself as a caregiver. And I feel like I just didn't do great with that. And I do feel better than I did last year. I'm sleeping better than I did last year, but the numbers don't bear it out. But I'll be honest, the last 6 months, in a lot of ways, my brother was much sicker than my mom. And even though I wasn't on his care team, it was probably more stressful, believe that or not, because my mom, she didn't have her mind. Right. And once she got bedridden, it was a lot of work, but it was manageable and I knew what to expect. And we had our hands full. That 2024 hospice year was hard and I was working full time. So that's probably the beginning of just the neglect reaching peak performance. But I'll be honest, I think I doubled down more because I was so aware of it, because I was on her healthcare team. I was her caregiver. I only had help when I was at work and the rest of it was on me. So I was a lot more conscious of taking care of myself, carving out time for myself. The thing with my sibling, it was just more invasive, and he was bipolar. So a person who's sick, who's bipolar, who's absolutely neglectful of themselves, that's a lot to unpack. And I didn't really want to be on his team, but there's really nobody left. And the people he hired, and they won't even know this, but he was so manipulative that they didn't even realize that he was using them. And they used him right back. He paid them very well. They did not clean, that is for sure. There's not a surface in there that was clean. But he was able to get the food he wanted to eat. And I'm telling you, that was his joy. He was like a junkie. Not even like, he was a food junkie. So, he was able to get what he wanted to eat, and he liked how they treated him. And I'm telling you, bipolar people are no joke. I have no doubt about any number of stories he may have told them about his family that weren't true, because he would say anything to get what he wanted and to feel a certain way. You know what I mean? And I knew that about him. And I was his younger sibling, so you gotta understand, being younger than the bipolar person, you see it all. I saw all the manipulation, I saw all the frustration, I saw him, pretending to take his medicine. I saw all of it, and I had to process it as a person who lived in the home with him and younger than him. And then, as we got older and my parents split up, my mom, she really wanted to keep eyes on him. So whenever he was having a problem, I had to get her to him. And it was always a challenge, and it was a tough relationship. I don't know anybody who has a mentally ill person in their family that's just like psyched about it, because you don't know what to expect. They always have a problem. They always need all your attention, and they don't seem particularly grateful when you give it to them. I can't stress enough, there are so many times I had to drop everything and get my mom to Alabama for 20 years. And that's putting miles on my car, taking vacation days that weren't fun. And I don't recall one time he ever said thank you. I don't think in his brain he thought he was sick. In fact, I heard him in one of his rants, was like, my brain protects me. My brain. And I was like, is this one of his little self-pep talks? Because, no wonder. Because your brain is bad, bro. It's not a good brain. But I guess, you have to think that it is so you can function. It's wild. I really would like to examine it more, because this is the first time in my life that I actually don't have that burden of responsibility. And it did feel like a burden, and it did feel like responsibility, because when I took such, not control, but when I made my mom a priority to me, he was such a huge priority to her, Anyway, I'm not articulating it well, but I'm saying all that to say, I know why my numbers don't look great, and I'm going to do everything in my power to change that, which makes me excited, because that means this time next year, when I am moving to Canada, I will be a healthy Canadian. And I'm excited about it. I really am. I really am ready to move. I thought it was, like I said, I thought everything was last year, but it wasn't. It wasn't, and I knew it, but I was in denial, because I took huge breaks from looking after my brother's affairs, because my sister and I made a great plan for him about this time last year. It was May. Because every time I turned around, he was in the hospital. So last year, after, trying to coordinate my mom's affairs, she died in December of 2024. Elon Musk comes in and shuts down the government January and February of 2025. So I'm trying to figure out how to get all of her former federal employee benefits squared away. And, then I get a call from my brother. I'm in the hospital. And just as I was feeling free, but I was still tangled up with my mom's business, the business of a person. When a person dies, man, that's just one part of it. There's a whole, their body is gone, but their business goes on, which is why I don't understand why the power of attorney evaporates when they die. That's ridiculous. It should last at least 6 months more, because you have to transact business still. And then, everything freezes, bank accounts. Once you report them dead, bank accounts close, all these things close. And you're just sort of having to transact business on your dime for them. That's crazy. So anyway, like I said, I thought last year was it. Then by March, he was back in the hospital. So by May, because that's what would happen. He'd go in the hospital, then he'd go into extended care for another 6 to 10 weeks. And then, my sister, I just said to her, what if he moved where you are, and you're an RN, you're retired, you can just monitor his progress. He would still be alive. Absolutely. It was a great plan. And he had enough money, believe it or not, under $10,000, at least last year, you could hire a medical ambulance, a medical team, like a Sprinter van with a medical team in it, and drive them across the country for $8,000. And I had the ambulance company on speed. I was dialing them when my sister was like, stop the call, because he just flat out refused to go. He refused to go. And I knew that one of his caregivers was not very good. I knew she wasn't, she just, despite her intentions and her beliefs about her skill set, I knew she wasn't very good at caregiving. And I wanted to get them separated, because I think, he would do better. But also, he didn't want that, because she would bring him the food he liked to eat, which was completely horrible food for someone in congestive heart failure. It's we finally dug down. I looked at all his paperwork, and he had congestive heart failure. And I'm not trying to share all his business. This is a cautionary tale. I'm not exploiting him. My goal here is to inform. There are people in your life and they are not well, and they will expect someone close to them, a spouse, a sibling, a nephew. They're going to expect somebody to take care of them. And you're going to walk in blind. I knew he was sick, but I had no idea the details. And so he's been having congestive heart failure probably for 4 or 5 years. 4 or 5 years. And this lady was just not good for him. And he would not separate from her. And he would not go and live near my sister. He would still be alive and probably happy. But in his mind, he wouldn't be happy because he wouldn't be able to eat double whoppers and bullshit, because he loved to eat bullshit. And it's like, I don't think people understand how bad this food is for us. It's killing us. And we're out here fighting for our lives because people who don't read labels, people who eat out all the time, they're not paying attention. But this food is not good for you. Any business that's preparing food for the masses is not concerned about the quality of the food and your health. They're concerned about if they're going to increase their profit margins. So that's how we arrive in 2026, and food is less food than it's ever been. You know, it's a lot of stuff, but most of it isn't real. So it's just it's just a very interesting thing to have watched up close. He wasn't 600 pounds, but it's a lot like those 600-pound life people. You know, their brain is wired to believe that this food tastes good and is good to them, but it's not. You know, there's this very heavy-set young lady who, I don't know how she has all these social media followers, but people watch this big young lady eat all this food and they just criticize her, or they say, "Oh, girl, that burger looks good." It's so strange. And it's almost like walking through like the freak show or something. Like, look at her. I mean, she's really big. She's morbidly obese and she's young. I would say in her 20s. Well, she has a young face, but she's got to be about 400 pounds. And they never show her standing up. She just sets her camera up, and she has a husband, and they both eat. Now, I haven't seen him, but it's like, man, this is like watching someone eat themselves to death. Hi, y'all. And then she just like, oh, this is good. And it's just so sad. And it's like, what has happened to us? You know, like, why would you be proud to like do that? I would be embarrassed. I'm embarrassed now, and I'm nowhere near that size. Anyway, it is what it is. Actually, I'm not embarrassed. I'm just frustrated because menopause. That's a whole nother ball of wax. Y'all know how I feel about menopause. Like, if men had this shit would be something we talk about like ancient history. You remember back when menopause was a thing? Oh, yeah. Yeah, but they don't. So women are just laying here roasting and cooking in our own juices. It's ridiculous. I'm not going to give them. It makes me so mad. I hate menopause. I like being this age because you're sharp and you're smart, and like nobody can get one over on you. It's really hard because you've been to all the movies. You're in your 50s. You know what's going on. You know, and if you have good discernment or you're keyed into a room, you can figure shit out fast. But the physical stuff is like, damn. And so I have to get tuned up so I can be ready for my 60s and 70s. So my health journey is about to go in earnest. And I'm very proud of that because I'm already declaring victory. And I'll be in the best shape of my life and entering Canada, baby. Because I am determined to be a citizen of Canada. They make movies there, and I think they make movies without all the bullshit. And less bullshit, more art. That is my mantra for the coming years. That's all I'm going for. Less bullshit, more art. All right. I hope you have an amazing day today. Again, take your health seriously. I'm going to leave the link again. Check it out. If you're under 60, I definitely think that these extra panels of tests give you a fuller picture. And I know it's expensive, but it's expensive because insurance isn't going to pay for all of this. They don't care about all your hormones, especially if you're in the 40 range where you're wondering where your hormones are. They have a lot more tests to figure out where your hormones are falling. And it's not so much, just so you can know, but it gives you a strategy. Then you could talk to your doctor like, look, I saw this is X, Y, and Z. What can I do? Because I'm telling you, this getting hot and gaining weight and all the other stuff, the difficulty sleeping, all the pressures and strains that menopause puts on your body. I mean, I wish I had taken it more seriously at 40, although I was very sick in my early 40s because I had been neglectful of other things, and them doctors did not think I was going to make it, but they didn't know me, and so here we go. Now I'm about to do it again, but I'm excited. It's a good time to be me, and it's a good time to be you. Thank you for listening. Take care of yourselves. It is April 23rd. Time is flying by. Do not waste a second of it. Enjoy your day. Get some sun. Go for a walk. Bye.